On this channel, I upload English listening videos for different levels every day. You can improve your English by listening. If you're ready, let's begin. The hearing room in The Hague was designed to look neutral. Pale wood, soft lighting, an aquarium of glass, separating the public from the people whose lives were being retranslated into evidence. Neutrality, I'd learned, was the most persuasive costume power could wear. Underneath it, everything had a pulse. I sat behind the interpreter's console, with my headset poised like a question mark. On my screen, the witness's dialect was labeled Arabic Maghrebi, as if the ocean of difference between villages could be poured into one bureaucratic cup. My hands hovered above the notepad. My mouth rehearsed invisibility. An interpreter's ambition is to be forgotten. The witness began slowly, tasting each syllable as though it might be poisoned. His words arrived in my ears with the salt and iron of a coast I knew too well. He used a proverb my grandmother used when she was angry but didn't want to start a war. The sea doesn't drown you, your own fear does. In the official register it would become, I was afraid. Clean, manageable, untrue. I heard myself choose, I understood the risk, but the panic came from inside. It was not an exact translation, but it carried the same bruising. The stenographer's fingers kept moving. The judges' faces remained still. Yet I felt absurdly as if I'd smuggled contraband into court. At lunch in the corridor that smelled of coffee and faint panic, Clara Van Dyke found me. She ran communications for a humanitarian organization that loved the camera, the way a plant loves light. We'd met at panels, at fundraisers where tragedy was described in well-lit slides. You were good, Amer, she said, as if the witness's story were a performance and I had delivered my lines without stumbling. We need someone like you. Someone who can give complexity a spine. She offered a job. Senior Narrative Strategist. The title tasted like a compromise. It came with a salary that could buy my mother a better apartment. And with the kind of status my father used to call a coat that stays warm even when the weather changes. The organization was about to launch a campaign. They wanted a face who could sound principled in 3 languages. You've got credibility, Clara said. You've got the accent that makes donors listen. You can translate not just words, meaning. Meaning, of course, was where the trouble began. That evening, I replayed the morning's testimony in my head, the way people replay songs when they can't accept the ending. Back in my hotel room, the canal outside the window held the city's reflections like a calm lyre. Then, I stared at the cursor blinking at me with the patience of a machine that doesn't care which life it helps you choose. My mother called from Tangier, her voice threaded with cooking noises. Are you eating? She asked, which in our family meant, are you safe? Are you still yourself? I'm eating, I lied. She told me my uncle had been bragging about me at the cafe, inflating my job into heroism. In Tangier, international work is considered a moral upgrade, as if leaving home automatically grants you cleaner hands. I listened, and in her pride I heard the old hunger we never admitted to. The hunger to be seen as more than a coastal footnote. When I mentioned Clara's offer, my mother fell silent for a moment, then said carefully, It would be good for you. It would be good for us, she meant. Our family had survived on good enoughs and near miracles. A stable income was not a luxury, it was a kind of forgiveness. The next day, after another hearing, I met Clara at a cafe where the pastries looked like they were designed by architects. She slid a folder toward me. Inside was the draft of the campaign narrative. A single survivor, a single villain, a single clean timeline. It had the seduction of simplicity. We can't ask people to care about 1,000 threads, she said. We have to braid one rope. I turned a page and froze. A quote from the witness, my witness, had been extracted and polished into something unrecognizable. My interpretation, already a balancing act, had been clipped again to fit a slogan. His proverb had been replaced with a line that sounded brave in English and dead in Arabic. That isn't what he said, I murmured. Clara's expression didn't change. It's what people will hear, she replied. There's a difference. In my head I heard my grandmother again, stirring a pot, warning a child not to trust calm water. There was a time I believed language was a bridge. The older I got, the more I understood it could be a dam, controlling what flowed, deciding what drowned. I can fix it, Clara added, misreading my silence as negotiation. We'll keep the spirit, but we can't keep all the grit. Grit scares donors. In the hearing room, grit was called evidence. In campaigns, it was called risk. That night I couldn't sleep, and not only because of the job offer. I thought about how in court, my duty was to accuracy. In activism, my duty would be to outcome. Both claimed morality, both demanded omission. I opened the acceptance email again. The salary glowed in my imagination like a lighthouse. I imagined my mother's relief, my uncle's bragging. I also imagined the witness hearing his own life repackaged for strangers, his dialect scrubbed into a sterile courage that wasn't his. In the morning, I wrote Clara a different message. I thanked her. I refused. I offered instead to help build a team of interpreters and translators for the organization. People paid properly, credited, allowed to argue. Not a campaign voice. A language infrastructure. Something unglamorous enough to be honest. She replied within the hour. That's not what we need right now. I expected regret to arrive like a storm. Instead, it came as an odd, quiet clarity. In the hearing room later, as I lifted the headset, the witness began speaking again. His words were still unruly, still resistant to neatness. I felt the familiar pressure to make them behave. And for once, I didn't force them. I let the proverb live in the official record. See and fear intact. The judges blinked as if tasting unfamiliar salt. Somewhere behind the glass, a few listeners leaned forward, confused, but awake. Ambition, I realized, is often just the desire to be understood, without having to explain yourself. Happiness might be the opposite, the willingness to keep explaining, even when it ruins the slogan. Thank you for listening and practicing English with us. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends. See you in the next video.